Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for taking the time to join our workshop this morning. This will be an interactive online workshop with Willie, Snyman and Alta, Odendaal. We are discussing today living life by design versus living life by default. It will reflect on 2021 happenings. What is our vision for 2022? How to live life by design rather than living life by default. Financial boundaries in relationships and accelerating your financial success within your relationships. So just a short introduction to Willie Snyman. Willie is a prominent business member in Pretoria and a well-known coach providing services to specifically businesses, CEOs, top management and so on. He specializing in that, also obviously helping with relationships and life coaching. With the wealth of experience, obviously we all can learn something from him. And then we have Miss Alta Odendaal. Alta, also a prominent business lady. She has ample experience in financial coaching as well, and specializing in financial coaching. So if you're worried about money, Alta is the lady to speak to. So without further ado, if everyone is ready and happy, we can go ahead. Willie, Alta, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. Thank you for helping us as our marketing agent to get things going. At this point, maybe you can share the house rules. Maybe if you still want to keep it on, I don't mind. But yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's really a privilege. We were looking actually for the last 4 or 5 years. Myself and Alta did the workshops, make, let's say, 2020 your best year yet, or make 2021 your best year yet. And I remember, I think our first one was make 2019 your best year yet. And then a lot of things happened and changed actually. And I know some of the people you're like, I think, Paul, you were one of our workshops, you definitely were. And we really spent like more than a day or two. In one of the workshops, it was a day on goal setting and all these things. And then Alta came with the idea to say, but we cannot do it this year the same as last year. We should have another spin on it. And then this workshop was developed for 3 hours, a 3-hour workshop, which is actually, because to have a day workshop is not that easy. But before we start, maybe Alta, maybe just something more about you.
Thanks, Willie. Thanks for the opportunity. Yeah, as Michelle mentioned, my passion is actually, financial coaching. Traditionally, it was always about financial wellness and financial planning. But over the past 6 years, I think when we met really for the first time is when we started working with the subconscious mind and really how our subconscious habits and behaviors of our personality type actually influence, our decisions that we make on money. And I think I always thought, the more knowledge you've got about finances, the more successful you will be in finances, which is a good starting point. But what I've realized is that we make decisions purely on our emotions. And if you don't understand your subconscious mind, your subconscious behaviors, actually, sabotage our own lives and also our own financial wellness. So yeah, I think that's a little bit about me, and I think that's where we share the passion of really understanding, our personality types on a deep subconscious level. Yeah, Willie, but you can also share with the audience. That's where we met, and that's where we share the same passion.
Yeah, thank you, Alta. Basically, myself, I retired from this, let's say, corporate stressed life about 5 years ago. And realize, when you retire at 60, you've got a lot to do still. And then I actively went into coaching, also with my other company, Change Partners Coaching, where we focus on executive coaching. But my passion really is, if I would talk about the passion, is people and people in relationships. And hence I absolutely like to be involved with coaching with things like mental fitness and relationships, and also do a lot of couples counseling. So I'm really looking for this workshop. But one thing I just need to stress, if there's one thing you can take out of today and apply that, it might really change your life in a big way. We try to package a lot of tools in the workshop. We cannot go into the detail of every tool, but if you can take one tool and make something of it, and also some of the tools will go more into depth. That's the right English, yeah. So yeah, back to you, Alta. Perfect, I can see.
Okay. First of all, I want to actually ask the audience this morning, and Willie, I know we said we will also share from our own lives, is what is the difference between living life by default, because that's the reason why you signed up for this session this morning, is living life by default versus living life by design. And I want you to think of any crisis example that you've got in your own mind this morning of maybe something happened in your life and you had a little bit of a wake-up call. And Willie, maybe before I share, I'm going to put you on the spot and I'm going to ask you, when was that one moment in your life when you realized, oh, there's a different way of doing things and to think about things?
Yeah, if I can maybe be a bit personal here, it was about 20 years ago. I was lying in a bed alone without family, I would say. And I said to myself, Willie Snyman, how the hell did you get here? And that was quite a moment in my life. And I looked back and I sort of going back on my tracks. And I realized that I went through a time in my life that I was very selfish in my decisions. And I think a lot of my choices were fear-based. I always needed to be right, to be successful at all costs. And it cost my marriage. And I think my self-esteem took quite a knock. And for me, that was my defining moment. If I can maybe just share that, Alta.
Thanks, Willie. I really appreciate that. And yeah, I think from my life, I can remember my days still in corporate when I got home one night and I was sitting there on the couch and I was thinking, shoo, if I can just reduce the stress and if I can just think differently and I don't need to worry. And that was years ago when I was still in corporate and I didn't realize it. But when I had to give financial advice to very close family members, I realized that my body started reacting. And I think some of us will know that sometimes your body will react if you can't think clearly, if you're very fearful. And the moment my body started reacting, I realized this is something, I need to investigate and I need to realize what's going on in my thoughts. And I realized that my personality type was keeping me stuck and that I had fear-based thoughts. And that's the moment that I started investigating, went on a deep self-awareness journey where I actually realized, what is my fear-based thoughts? And now they're my best friend. And I think that is living that life by default was for me. When all our thoughts are fear-based and we think we are right and everybody else is wrong. I know, Willie, we all started like that. And that's what we really think is, my view of the world is right and everybody else is wrong. But when you start realizing, what is your thought patterns and you understand other people's thought patterns and what is their deep fears, motivations, and core beliefs, it changes everything. And that's when you change your perception on everything. I don't know if there's anybody that's brave enough or want to take a chance and maybe share with the group. If you feel like it, you can just put up your hand. I don't know if I'll be able to see everybody, but if there's anybody that feels comfortable that they want to share, you know, I will give you the opportunity. Christina, thank you. You can unshare or unmute yourself, and thanks for your bravery.
Yeah, it feels quite brave. I must say, my defining moment was when I was retrenched from corporate. This was after I've lost my marriage, my family, my relationship with my children. I gave my everything to my job, everything I had, all my energy, 16-hour days. And when I was retrenched, I was left with nothing. Not the money, not the status, not the family. All my kids were married by then. And I had to start alone from scratch. That's, yeah.
And Christina, thank you very much for sharing that.
And I just add that I was also sequestrated a year before the retrenchment. So I had started with nothing again. But we can do it.
It changes everything in our lives if we get that one defining moment. But sometimes it's the best moments of our lives, although it's very painful. So thanks for sharing that. Bianca, I see you also got your hand up. If you want to unmute yourself, you're more than welcome to unmute.
Yes, sorry, I'm not sharing my screen. I'm in Dublin and it's still very early here. It's like 7 o'clock. So I think my moment came like during the pandemic towards the end of last year. So about 6 years ago, I moved to Ireland on my own to, you know, just come and work here. During the pandemic, you know, we've been working from home for the last 2 years and I live on my own. I couldn't really see friends or, you know, I was just stuck in my apartment on my own all the time. And I think, yeah, I just realized, you know, I've just been drifting through life for the last 6 years with no real plans and just waiting for everything to fall into my lap. And, you know, and I realized I'm now reaching an age where I probably need to start making some adult decisions and, you know, pave my way forward and not just wait for everything to appear, magically appear.
Thanks, Bianca. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I think COVID actually, you know, anything that was not above the surface, I think everybody, you know, we live life on autopilot. Sometimes life will throw us a curveball. And then we will realize, listen, but we've actually got choices. And I think that's important to realize. So thanks for sharing, Bianca. Anybody else? So if we can embrace our crisis moments and we learn from it, you know, where do it bring us? It brings us to a place where we can make new choices and we can actually design our own lives by making intentional choices. And I think it's almost like a wake-up call because we live life in a very reactive mode, you know, the way we were brought up and the way we think, you know, our expectations, and everybody needs to go to work, and this is how the family lives work, this is how marriage works, and we think we know everything. And then we get those wake-up calls. But then it's also great to have an opportunity to start living your life by design and then to make different choices. And Willie, I'm maybe going to put you on the spot again if you're prepared to share how you live by design now.
Yeah, I can maybe, thank you. I'll give an example. I was actually moved by the previous two ladies, what they mentioned, because I so understand that. I think for me, things changed where I realized I had to move from I cannot to I want to. And the another thing that I realized is, and sometimes we think we don't need the support, but you need support. You need support of people around you, but you also need to get hold of life tools. And that is what I want to stress. So that you really can learn that to develop in more empowering belief systems and to develop mental fitness. And if I look at my stress levels where I am today versus, let's say, 20 years ago, it's quite different. I think what helped me in my personal life was really an increased self-awareness and acceptance of things that I cannot change. But acceptance doesn't mean that you agree with things. Acceptance means you accept things as they are. And then to take appropriate action, and then, of course, to have appreciation. Thank you. That's just my examples. Alta.
Yeah, I won't say, I think most of you know the Enneagram type, and you know me, you know my Enneagram type. So I've got advantages with that and disadvantages. But the thing is, our blessing is normally our curse. So sometimes, what we're good at can really, really be our biggest stumble blocks. And when I started intentionally, to understand my fear-based thoughts and my survival thoughts and how I try and look at how to protect myself and protect other people, I realized that is my gift to the world, is where I can help people. But I must not let this gift be a burden. And I think it's really the balance of how do I use my gifts, and I intentionally manage my subconscious fears in my mind and my thoughts and my beliefs that's sabotaging actually my own life. And I know, Willie, you got some exciting news to share with us today with some research from Stanford University. So, yeah, before we carry on with Willie, sorry, Willie, I missed that one. And this is a very important slide. What I want you to do quickly is to get a pen and paper. And I want us to quickly complete this quiz. And so if anybody, I hope all of you's got some pen and paper next to you to take notes. And I hope you've got a calculator also there, or at least you can add up. What I want you to do is to read the statement on the left and on the right, and then circle the number that you think is most true for where you see yourself right now or where you experience the world right now. So if I take this first one, just as an example, and I say, I worry about the future, or I live in the present moment, where do I see myself? Do I really worry a lot about the future? Then I would select like a 0, 1, 2, 3 on that scale. Or if I live in the present moment and I'm very comfortable with that, I can maybe select an 8, 9, 7, whatever you feel comfortable. And what I want you to do is to read through each statement. And then if you've finished, if you can just put it in the chat, your score, if you can put that in the chat. To recap quickly, what is the purpose of this little exercise? We're all on a different journey. Some of us had a really bad experience last year with COVID or the year before, and we had some trouble in our business maybe or within our relationships. So it's possible that there's some strain on your relationships. And what happens normally is if there's a strain in your relationship, it will also go into your finances. It will also make you worry more about the future. And sometimes you feel a little bit blocked and stuck in life. So we're all on a different journey. So if you've got a lower score, it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. All that it means is if you've got a score below, let's say 50, it means that on this side, you actually answered more of this questions, which is more fear-based. I worry, I'm blocked, it's stressful. If you can see all the answers on this side. And if you look on the other side, you'll see there's more blessings in my relationships. I don't feel that stuck. I can move forward. And it's really to look at where you are currently today, and you can do this test again and again. But it's a nice indicator to say, do you live fear-based, or can you possibly maybe change your fear-based thoughts and start living more intentionally towards your future, your relationships, your own personal development journey. So that was really the purpose of this exercise. I don't know if it made sense. Just put in the chat box, make sense, if it makes sense, and if it was valuable. Okay, good. Cornelia is saying yes. Thank you. Okay, so got it. Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, Hannah. Thanks, makes sense. Okay, great. Okay, Willie, now over to you. I'm glad it makes sense. And yeah, this is what we're going to discuss today, is actually how to move from fear-based thinking to intentionally choose our own thoughts and our own beliefs to reduce our stress, actually get us out of that stuck mode. Okay, thanks. Over to you, Willie. And now you can go to Stanford University.
Thank you, Alta. Yeah, thank you. I'm glad we did this quiz. It showed as the audience swiveled a bit on the left side of the screen of the reality there of default and not yet thriving. But I also want to give you some research that was done on this topic of stress, especially in the Corona times. 2 years ago, the University of Stanford did a lot of research on this topic and how it affects us more now than ever. But I also want to be humble about it and say, you know, it's easy to talk about these things. It's easy, but in the end, it's the doing of things and not just the thinking and say, yeah, now I understand it. So I just want to give you some comfort to say that some of the research points us in the right direction. And a lot of this research that's been done, I would say, give us hope for ourselves and hope for the future and hope for our relationships. First thing is that we are more lonely than ever. You know, it's actually ironic because Corona forced us together in our homes, but we are lonely. And when you talk about loneliness, it adds to, from a science specific, it adds to high blood pressure, to obesity, to a weakened immune system. And secondly, in our reality of the last 2 years, also quite a lot, you know, like loss of meaning and purpose. So, you know, when we talk about the subject of loss of meaning and purpose, that is a serious one. And that is where we get bored, we feel dissatisfied, unfulfilled in our relationships, and we ruminate what's the point of life. So if you add the two, you know, the loneliness part and the loss of meaning and purpose, and you add now a third one, you know, negative self-talk. If you add the three things together, now the negative self-talk is I'm not good enough, you know, it's that inner dialogue, you know, that limiting self-beliefs, that self-doubt, you know, the lack of focus. And this is happening to all of us, of humanity. You know, we really got into a space of feeling more lonely, loss of meaning and purpose, and negative self-talk. So what the research further found is that, you know, from a high-level perspective, there are three ways to look at it. And it's also neuroscience-based. So it helps to realize that. It helps to realize that, you know, there's a lot of things happening here in our brains, which is not just a piece of meat or fat or water. There's a lot of things happening here. And the three things that I say to address this reality is the first one, what they call a meta-awareness, is that really you have to put deliberate attention to conscious thought. But what I also mean by that is a strong observance of your body, of your sensations, as what you hear, what you feel, is really to be alert, to really be alert and know what's going on around you and inside you specifically. It's like really increasing your self-awareness. It's like when you wake up in the morning and you go outside, immediately you can hear the birds start chirping, or you can listen to the water and the cobbling stones and so on. It's really like a meta-awareness. That's the first thing that is seriously important, is to increase self-awareness. Secondly, and this is just as important, is not just connections or having relationships. It's really having quality connections, because quality connections is that positive energy exchange between two people. Now, if that happens, you definitely lower anxiety and depression, and it leads to higher self-esteem. Even if it means that you come to a point in your life where you maybe have to cut off certain relationships because it's just not worth anymore. Yes, you're happy, you're privileged in life if you have 5 or 6 good friends. Some of us has maybe 1. But if you need that quality of good connections, and if a connection is in quality, what can you do to make it more quality? And we can also talk about that a bit later. So if you really work on your self-awareness and you work on the quality of your relationships, and you add a third factor to the mix, they talk about narratives of self-belief. What is that inner talk? What is that thing that you say to yourself? And this is a critical one. It is that you need to develop the ability to say to yourself that I'm special. There's nobody like me. I'm worthy of love. I'm worthy of success. I'm worthy to be there, and to really live like I can say enjoy a better life, dealing better with stress, feel more secure and more self-worth. And this is and it's easy again, as I said earlier, it's easy to say these things, but that is the way to go. The way to go in terms of the loneliness and these things is basically to make sure that you increase your self-awareness, you develop the quality of connections, and you very, very know what you're thinking about yourself and self-love. That's the 3 main things. And what I want to add into this, and it is just good to know this from a neuroscience perspective. It is about, before I show the next screen, it's also the University of Stanford. There's a guy called Shirzad Sharmin. He wrote a book, Positive Intelligence. And he shows, after experience and talks and surveys with nearly 500,000 people, 1,000 executives, a lot of people. And it is, and they developed a system to really understand this more properly. And they developed this thing of the 2 brains that we have. You know this. I mean, we have the, how can I say, the one part of our brain is the limbic system. Now, the limbic system is just, it's just before the brainstem. So a small brain here, a bit to the left side as well. That is the brain that gives at the flight or flight response. We call it the survival brain or the primitive brain. We all have that. And from that brain developed the frontal lobes, if you're a human being. That is the so-called executive function. That is the decision-making part of the brain, the self-control, the planning part. And the psychologist will also refer to it sometimes, which wolf are you feeding, the white wolf or the black wolf? We all have it. I mean, you cannot not having these 2 brains. You have it. And you have a whole brain as well. But what happens if you put your head under these so-called EEG machines, you know, where they, because your brain is dealing with sending and receiving of chemical and electrical impulses throughout your body. But you can record your electrical signals. So if you put your head under this machine and you feel the so-called dark emotions, this fear, stress and anxiety, this limbic part of your brain is highlighting more. And if you find a way and a method in terms of being self-aware to sort of lower and getting calm, and then you start thinking more on this part of the brain, because neurons that fire together wire together. So if you can develop the thinking mode that you can highlight more this part of the brain in terms of your way of thinking, that is the part where you're more creative, where you're acquisitive, you're in activation mode, like the laser sharp focus, and especially empathy. Now, empathy is the opposite of judge. So what they found is that in this limbic system, the part that is the part you can say where your judge resides. Now, it's a metaphor. Let's say, call it the saboteur side. It's a metaphor. So, but that is fear-based. You need it because, I mean, if you suddenly, a lion chases you, you have to run. So, I mean, you need that, but you just need it for a moment. But what happens with us, we are too much there all the time, where the purpose is just to be there to protect you for seconds. But then the other part of the brain is the more empathy part, not the judge part. So you tend to judge yourself. So this is a part of the negative self-talk. You say, I'm not good enough, or you judge yourself, you judge other people, you judge the world. But if you move more to the other part of the brain, that is what they will call as a metaphor, the sage side of the brain. It's just a metaphor. But that is the opposite of the judge. That is the empathy part, where you first learn with self-awareness over time to develop self-love, to look at yourself first. Empathy for you, empathy for another person, and empathy for the world. I mean, think of that thing if in an airplane, if the airplane goes down, you need to first take the mask yourself so that you can help the other person, not you first help the other person. So the reality of life is this whole thing to learn to develop those regions of the brain that make sense. And to illustrate it, if I can maybe just show you the slide. The Sherzatsumine from that university developed this coin called positive intelligence. That's why it's sort of copyrighted as well. So you know all about EQ and IQ. Now this is PQ, positive intelligence. It is, you can also see it as a branch of positive psychology. So it's also linked together neuroscience, cognitive-based psychology, and performance science is all linked together. And they coined this phrase called positive intelligence. And that, as he explained there, the saboteurs is on the left side of the brain mostly, but the limbic system. The sage side is more the middle prefrontal cortex on the right side, but that side of the brain. And so that is where your motivations then come from. Your motivations come from both sides, because you have a whole brain, you use the whole brain, but it's where do you focus? So your motivations can be negative or positive. So positive motivations is more sustainable. That's the thing. If you get motivated all the time by fear, I'm not going to make my targets, I'm going to lose something out, whatever. That is that part of the brain that highlights a lot. That is a limbic part. But if you can get motivated more by intention, more motivated by what do I really want? What really makes sense? What is the bigger picture? This is this part of the brain. And you develop that from a neurological perspective. That motivation is more sustainable. It's like comparison pushed by fear or pulled by love is also one way that he put it. It's either being reactive or being more proactive. It's either having a no mind or a yes mind. So the beauty of this reality is that you can develop more neural paths towards this region of your brain and softening the paths of that brain. So it's neuroscience based, and you can learn to develop that. So as I put there on the point, strengthen the sage circuit. So it's strengthening those circuits in this part of the brain, that then it becomes over time automatic. Then it's automatic that you get into the situation of stress and anxiety. And if you develop this part more, neurons that fire together, wire together, then it becomes more automatic. And then lastly, in terms of this science, what is so great, that if you get it right over time, to have this perspective of whatever happens to you, it's either a gift or opportunity. Now, again, I need to stress that it's easy to say this. It's easy to say, you know, see things as a gift or opportunity. And sometimes, a lot of times, especially with deep things that gives you pain, is that you see the gift later, or you see the opportunity later. So, for example, you get to your work, and your boss or whoever is really going down on you, you know, and it triggers that part of your brain, the stress part, and you're not dealing appropriately with the situation. Because the definition of positive intelligence is there, if you can see there, the capacity to respond appropriately to life's challenges. The capacity to respond appropriately to life challenges. So in this example, you're stressed out, the person is coming down on you, but if you maybe can get it right over time, to be inquisitive about it. If you're inquisitive about it, it might be that you wonder, you know, what is making this person upset. Maybe that person has something at home that is bothering him or her. Or you might say for yourself, I need to listen carefully because of this trigger, because maybe there's something I need to learn. So it's easy to say, yeah, I see things as a gift opportunity. But there's truth in this. And I want to give you another example, and it's a painful example of a coaching friend of mine, Anuka. It was in the newspapers. She lost her husband and small child in an airplane accident, and she was left with a small child. Now, how can you say to that person, you know, what's the gift opportunity? It's very hard that you don't do that. But it's now 5-6 years later. And she's now a coach focusing her life and passion on helping people that lost their kids or lost their spouses. And she's got this coaching practice called, I think, bereavement.com or something. But she's now married again recently, and she's happy. So sometimes you see the gift opportunity later in your life. I can give you a lot of examples, but the fact is, if you can get it right, to see things as either gift or opportunities, then you're on the right track. And I just want to summarize this on the next slide, where we say that what is this sage perspective? You know, this sage perspective is, I want to read it for you. The sage represents the deeper and wiser part of you. It is who you are, your true essence, that can rise above and resist being carried away by the drama and tensions of the conflict. Its perspective to any challenge is that it can be turned into gift and opportunity. Now, without being too much academic, I think I want to just explain this words here of the sage part. That is that part of your brain that you now needs to get more highlighted, or more neural paths. What they say in positive psychology is, you know, the empathy, explore, navigate, innovate, activate. It sounds a bit academic, but I want to explain it appropriately. So let's assume you get into a tension situation and you can feel it in your body. You have increased your awareness. You've done all the right things. You did meditations, all those things. And you get it right first to that pause. You know, first to get yourself calm again. Then you move to very intentionally think, to say that, you know, I'm going to move from being judgy. I don't judge myself now, not judge the other person. I'm going now into empathy mode. So if you get yourself, not intellectually just you do it. It's right, you have to do it with a specific way of doing it. All right. But if you get yourself in empathy mode, first for yourself, then for the other person, then for the world, but empathy mode as a mode. At that moment, it is possible to be inquisitive. And that is a word I use to explore. So you're being inquisitive of a reality. Is what is in this reality that I should look at? Maybe there's something I don't see. Because remember, if you're stressed, you don't easily stress things. If you're stressed, the non-dominant side of your brain actually shuts off, according to neuroscience. But if you're calm, you have the ability to use your whole brain and not the one part that shut it off. So if you are in empathy mode, then of course you can be inquisitive and say, but what is this? What do I don't see in the situation? That is the explore part. So if you get that right, and you add to that mix the navigate, that's a word they use. It's say, but yes, but you know, what is the bigger picture? What really matters? Now, this question of what really matters is definitely not part of this limbic brain. Your limbic brain is there for fight and flight and to protect you for things that happen. But this part of the brain is your developed brain. That is where that brain part will highlight, is then to say, but you know, what is the bigger picture? Why is this important? Is it really important that, you know, that I am now 3 minutes late for something? Is it that important that somebody that say that and that? What is the bigger picture? And the moment you get your mind into what is the real bigger picture, it's now easier to be more creative. And that is what the word they use is innovate, that other word, innovate. To say, but you know, maybe there's another way to look at this. Maybe there's another way to deal with it. And the moment you get that, then you move to the other word they say, activate. Activate is just to get into action, because now you make clear-headed, laser-sharp, focused decisions based on empathy, and you're inquisitive, and what is the bigger picture, and you know you've done through that mode. Now you can make decisions. But now the interesting thing happens, and that is also what I found in the science, is that the moment you get to the point of you're now okay, you're going to make a decision, then your saboteurs come in again, intercept saboteur. Then that other lie, the lies, comes in and say, you know, maybe I cannot do it, maybe I missed something, you know. But now you know now, you know, that is just lies. It's lies of that part of the brain that had its purpose, but it's not true anymore. You don't have to be that restless, or you don't have to be that overachieving. You don't have to, you know, because that is a saboteur. It's that overachievement. It's the over-control. It's being over-perfectionistic. And all those things stresses you out. So that happens, but now you know that. Because of your now you're now aware. Remember of the awareness we talked earlier? Now, again, you go again through this whole thing of, but remind yourself, but let me look at with empathy, and I'm being inquisitive, what's the bigger picture, what's being creative. And that is basically what the neuroscience has taught us.
Thanks, Willie. Is this the type of coaching you do? Christina Eistek is asking the question.
Yes,
So,
yes, that my focus at the moment is positive intelligence. I also do other coaching. I also do business coaching, also do couple skill, all the other stuff. But this is currently my focus. Thank you.
Thanks, Christina. Yeah, Willie, I think thanks for the insight, especially on, you know, the two parts of the brain that's fighting with each other, and how we need to tame the monsters in our own minds. And, you know, I know we spoke a lot about it, because I sometimes also ask people, you know, if you had to listen and you had to be your best friend, and you listen to the voices and the way you speak to yourself on a daily basis, how many times do you actually, you know, what is that self-talk? If your friend is talking to you like that, will it be your best friend? And I think, you know, we can all answer that question, is that it's natural for us, you know, but as you mentioned, neuroscience is telling us that we're creating our stress ourselves. We don't need to live in so much of stress. And I think, you know, that's the exciting part, is that we can manage it by having the right tools in the toolbox. And yeah, it's, thank you for sharing that. And I started the program already, so I'm fascinated. It's always good to learn new stuff and to attend a session like this today, Willie. But I think for all of us, it's the application, it's the integration, and it's the daily action that's going to make the difference. And I think, you know, that is crucially also important. Now I want some interaction. I think the next one, I want to involve the audience a little bit more for my chat now, because what we spoke about, Willie, I think in our session earlier on, is when you spoke about loneliness and our connections and relationships, we cannot talk relationships without talking about boundaries. And I want to ask, you know, everybody here, do you know what is your boundaries, and are you comfortable with boundaries? And maybe you ask yourself this morning, you know, what is a boundary? And if I can say to you in one question, by just creating self-awareness for yourself, is, do you sometimes feel like people are taking advantage of you? Or, you know, sometimes you've got resentment, you're in a position and you've got...
Sorry, I see Michelle's hand is up. Michelle, urgent.
Thank you, Alta. So sorry, you were saying we need to think about what are the boundaries, especially in relationships and so on. And I was just thinking, would that be my checklist as well? So if I decide to go into a relationship, I have a checklist of this is sort of what I would want from the other person and so on. Would that be part of the boundaries that I'm setting? This is what I want and so forth?
Thanks, Michelle. Brilliant, brilliant question. Yeah, 100% right. I think, you know, sometimes we fall in love when we're younger. And now we're talking about love relationships here. And then we follow the crowd. You know, we think, listen, this is what love looks like and marriage looks like and careers looks like. But the more you understand yourself on a very deep level, the more you will be able to set clear boundaries for yourself. If I say somebody's boundaryless, it's somebody that they've always complained that people are taking advantage of me, and, you know, I couldn't, they're always part of the drama. Let's say there was drama. People that's got no boundaries get into a situation where there's drama. And I actually intended to have it a little bit later, but I'm going to explain it here, is sometimes, you know, there's always an adult, there's always a child, and then there's always a parent in us. So sometimes we appear like the child, and we behave like the child, like a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old. And that's really coming from the ego or the saboteurs that's trying to protect us. And sometimes we're the adult and we try and tell people, and then we're the judge of what to do and how to do it. And, you know, we try, and people can see that as control, that we try and control them. Or we can become not the parent and not the child, and we the adult. And that's where Willie actually explained to us. That is a place where you've got deep self-awareness and you can respond. But if you know exactly what you need, and you know yourself very well, Michelle, you will know what is your needs in a relationship. So how much freedom do I need? How much connection do I need? Because sometimes we sabotage our own relationships by being too needy, and then there's a boundary issue. So yes, 100%, you can have a tick box to say this is what you need in relationships. Okay, so boundaries. I want to ask all of you, and I know from my own experience, I've experienced it a lot. We all experience it, we're humans. And I know if I ask you today is, have you ever felt, you know, resentment or taken advantage of in a relationship? And you can just put yes in the chat so that I know you know what is boundaries. And you've experienced maybe something where you need to look at your boundaries. Okay, I see a no there, I see yeses there. Maybe another question that you can ask yourself to realize if you've got some boundary issues is, do you sometimes feel like you need to rescue people or save people, or sometimes you feel like you need to take responsibility for other people? Is it really your responsibility, or are they taking advantage of your boundaryless personality type? Elise, I know my boundaries. Great. The more you know your boundaries, the better you will have, following relationships, because there will not be a lot of drama, because people will understand your boundaries.
Alta, Hanifa's raising a hand.
Okay. You can unmute yourself, Hanifa, and you can talk to us.
Morning, everyone. But in terms of financial boundaries, if I put it in layman's terms, you set a boundary or limit for yourself. For example, with your current bank account, you would not go into an overdraft. That's one of my boundaries that I put for myself. And before I take on a new debt, I'll close one first. So those are the boundaries that I put for myself with my own money. I also want to mention as well, with background and with family, how we grew up in terms of value systems as well. You're there to look out for your family members. So where do you draw the line there? So yes, in terms of maybe because of that principle or that value, then certain family members take advantage. And it's something that you grew up with. It's an unsaid rule. It's not a yes or a no, it's you must. So in terms of that, where do you break the chain? And if you break the chain, yes, first of all, maybe they'll see you as an enemy. But in that instances, you maybe assist them to be more financial dependent. But where I'm coming from is that when you ask the question is that are they taking advantage? When do you realize that you are being taken advantage of? And where do you then communicate or make it sound as if, it's not a must that I must help? And I'm speaking from a backdrop of where my father was helping his brother and the kids was living with his brother. So the brother was actually attending to the whole family that lives in the house, and my dad felt the need to assist and to help, because it's not that he has to help it, but because he wants to. It's his brother and he doesn't want to see his brother suffer. So where do you draw that line where you can actually assess or see that people are taking advantage of you? And when I'm speaking about people, it's family members. It's not outside. It's people that's really close to you. Thanks.
Thanks, Geneva. I really appreciate your question, and thanks. It's sometimes a very, very difficult topic. Is to set clear financial boundaries. Now, there's no right and there's no wrong. What you need to do is what is comfortable for you, and you need to understand your needs. But the higher you go in your own self-worth and your own self-esteem, the clearer your boundaries will be, how clear you can set boundaries with other people. And I understand it's sometimes very, very difficult in family. And the reason why I'm saying this is because sometimes we enable people. Remember, the more I rescue other people, the more they know they can come and knock on my door. I'm a rescuer. I'm a saver. They can come and I'll be there. But what will happen if you're no longer there? Think of even in financial planning, and I know we're talking financial boundaries, but what will happen if you're no longer there to just support and be the door that somebody else can knock on and to say, listen, I'm in trouble. Please help, please help, please help. Remember, the more we help other people, the less responsibility they will take for their own lives. And what I'm trying to say here is we've all got gifts. We all got talents. Maybe if you set a boundary, it will push them to look at their own gifts and talents. And you can do it in a very nice way, the way that Willie actually explained it, through understanding, saying, listen, I really understand your needs. But at the moment, you know, this is my financial boundaries. I can only help you until this point and no more. And then to tell them, or rather help them to look at their own talents and their own, you know, resources that they've got available to actually generate an income. Because the more you rescue people, they will never take ownership of their own lives. And it sounds maybe harsh, but sometimes it can be the greatest blessing once again for somebody else. I see a lot of hands is going up and I love it. So Ayanda, let's take Ayanda for an opportunity, and then Shireen, I'll give you an opportunity as well.
Hello, Alta, how are you?
Fine, thanks. Great to see you.
Great to see you too. Huh? Look, Alta, I hear your point. The lady before, she spoke about assisting families, and you setting boundaries as well, and also being a superhero. You know, Alta, we have different personalities, and some of us, we are givers. It's natural. And I just want to know, like, how do you stop feeling bad for saying no? Because at times, saying no can be the best thing to do, but then you feel so bad that you feel like you could have helped, but you just can't, because you have your own needs as well, and you need to start with your own needs. When you get money, you want to start with your children, you want to start with your own debts or your own expenses, but then now you have your own family members that you know that they definitely need your help, and you cannot not help them. But obviously, some of them, they come and they take advantage, like you say, because you're a good person, you're a giver, you hardly say no. How do you stop feeling bad for saying no?
Ayanda, yes. There's an old saying that, you know, givers need to stop. Givers need to put the boundaries, because takers will never put a boundary. So remember, you can do it. It's all the way you're doing it. And it's all about communication, because if you come from a place of love instead of fear, you can tell them that you want them to take ownership of their own financial responsibilities, of their own incomes, that they can sell their own gifts and talents and be a blessing to the world, because we all got gifts that we can sell and that we can actually contribute to this world. I know it's very, very difficult, and there's a lot of subconscious beliefs that's driving different cultures of this is the way it is. And sorry for you, you know, in your culture, this is just how we do things. You know, you can still do it in a loving, kind way. And the way I want to maybe explain this is, Willie mentioned it, you know, you first have to put on your oxygen mask first. We cannot come from a place of emptiness. It doesn't help, you know, I help everybody else and I lose my home and I cannot feed my own children by helping everybody else, because then I'm a people's pleaser and I'm going to lose myself. Do you want to lose yourself by helping other people because you fear rejection? Because maybe you've got a deep fear of rejection, and that's why you're also helping other people, is because you fear of what they're going to think of you. But instead, what you can do is, if you're taking care of yourself and you've got more, then what you do is you help other people. But first, what you need to do is put your own boundaries for yourself and your own family. Because the more you help other people, the less they're going to take responsibility. I know it's difficult. I know it's challenging. And that's the reason why we need to understand what is all the subconscious beliefs and the fears that's holding us back. Just looking at the chat that's popping up, is maybe to sit with somebody to say, how can you create money? How can you, and helping them to take ownership of their own lives. Because you know what? If they don't, what will happen in the end of the day? The more you train them by setting boundaries, helping them to take financial responsibility, the less they will come and knock on your door, and they will be proud of themselves of what they've achieved.
So thanks, Alta. I come from a different end of financial boundaries. Mine is more work-related. The lead designer at a company, and for the past last year was the forefront of earning money for the company as an individual. And I think what happens is I literally drop dead, sacrifice my personal life, my personal well-being, my personal mental health. And at the beginning of this year, I decided that no matter how well I achieve breaking company records, that wasn't, you know, you'd think that was important. And that's something that I felt like, wow, my life would be great if I was the leader in a company and stuff like that. And at the beginning of this year, I started to assess and say to myself, doing well is important, but however, it's not the be all and end all of life. And being I think the financial boundary is just fascinating when it comes from a business perspective and not a relationship. And it's quite fascinating to see when you start realizing that you've let the boundaries go. You pull up those boundaries, you start establishing them, you start putting down your sense of authority, and you start telling the company, I cannot do this for you further, and this is where my boundary lies, this is what I can achieve, this is what I'm willing to give and what I'm willing to do. And unfortunately, when you haven't established those boundaries from the word go, and now you start establishing a bit too late, it's almost like backpedaling, and it is just not well received by anybody. People start putting their hands in the air, people start fighting with you, and it's like, but this is what you've done, this is what you've achieved, and now you kind of, I've had enough, this is my boundary. So I think if the one thing I've learned, it is just so important as an individual, not even in relationships, but in the business spectrum, is to establish a personal boundary when it comes to being in a financially driven situation for success, so that you can actually look after yourself as a person.
Thanks, Shireen. Thanks for explaining that, because it's so important also in business. Marriage, yeah, in relationships, it's important, but businesses will fail if people cannot put up financial boundaries at the right time. And what you've mentioned, what I've picked up as well, and we do it in all our relationships. It doesn't matter if it's, I've seen relationships, also people earning a lot of money and they ruin everything. But there was no clear boundaries. And the moment, what happens normally, the moment you set boundaries, people's not going to like it if you were boundaryless your whole life. So sometimes putting up new boundaries takes a lot of effort from yourself, but it's building your own self-esteem, your own self-worth. Because the moment you can put up a boundary for what is good for you, if you were boundaryless, people's not going to like it. And I think that is the biggest takeaway that we can also take from here today. It happens in mother or father-children relationships. It happens in business relationships. It happens within spouses. It happens everywhere. But thanks for that contribution. It is very important, and people don't like it if we put in boundaries, if we were boundaryless.
Hi guys, I just also want to make one comment that we tend to let the other person sound like the bad guy when they are the ones who are exploiting us for our financial resources. But we must always remember that we are part of that cycle, and it is actually us who get a certain kind of a kick from it to help others. There's a bit of an unhealthy relationship from both sides, and we must also take responsibility for our part in it. Otherwise, it can't be solved. We must always think it's the other guy that's bad only.
If I maybe can add something to that as well, Alta, yeah, valid comments from everybody. in the end, it's also about balance. I think balance is also, you know, something that we can put in the mix, and we need to be aware of where the balance is. And if we get ourselves in the mode of, let's say, the empathy mode, but remember the typical people that so easily help other people, the so-called givers of the world. I mean, they must just find the right balance, because you must think, you know, empathy, the concept of true essence empathy is empathy for, not for the other person alone. It's also for you and also for the world. It's like everything together. It's the opposite. And a lot of this, when everything is too much of, it's too much giving, or too much that, or too much thinking, or everything that's a too much resides in this part of the brain. But balanced thinking resides in this part of the brain. Having the correct empathy, think of the big picture, what really matters, you know, as another ways to address this problem, being creative. So it's a balancing act. Thank you.
Thanks, Willie. Yeah, it's fascinating what Sue just explained, and Willie, you as well. What you're saying is sometimes we feed our ego mind to say we're giving, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
Sue, I think that is what you mentioned, is it's the ego feel-good feeling that we get because it was possible for me to help other people. So yeah, just be careful of that one. Very true, Michelle, because the other thing, what happens is, if you set boundaries, you're also helping other people to take responsibility for their own financial situation, because otherwise, you know, they will never take responsibility, and that's the problem.
Then I do have a concern with South Africa, with the grants we provide to so many South Africans as well. Don't we just enable them in the same way, where we give them money and they don't have to take responsibility because they know the state will provide money?
Actually not, Michelle. There's a very strong economic argument that it's the opposite. Because yeah. I mean, if you give people grants and you appropriate it correctly, and the person's receiving 1,000 a month, okay, what is that person going to do with 1,000 rand? He's going to the shop. He's going to buy stuff. He's going to do that. It's actually stimulating the economy. So there's two broad views. I think there's quite a lot of very strong views for actually the opposite of what you just said. You know, from economists, yeah, and it's also currently, there's also the world, you know, at large is looking at that reality because of robots coming. A lot of less people are going to have work. The whole view going forward, long term, is for our kids. It's like lesser work, minimum hours, more grants, and very specialized things where you can't use robots. So there's actually quite a strong argument for grants.
Willie and Michelle had a chat now while we're having a break. And it was interesting what's happening around the world. And I'm currently coaching with another coach, and it's interesting his opinion on that. Exact question was, you know, do we make people more entitled if we give them money? You know, this financial boundary issue. I think it's something that's on our minds, and how do we resolve the world's problems? So just his opinion on that. And I'm coaching with him. He reckons, and I love it, he reckons that if you take all the money in the world and you put it in airplanes right now, and you drop off equal amounts of money to the 8 billion people around the planet or the world, and you drop off equal amounts of money, it's only going to take 3 years to 5 years for, if not shorter, to be back on that same path of where you are. Because money is a mindset, it's an internal job. People can create opportunities by being creative, and they've just got that mindset. And that's why you need to have coaches and mentors that can help you with that. Whereas other people's got the mindset, poor me, you know, look at me, and you know, this is who I am, and they will always be in a victim mode, and they will lose all their money. So that's an interesting viewpoint for me, Willie. And yeah, I quite like it because it's all about mindset. is what is possible for me. And if
But if you can hand out money and you can hopefully help people to have the right mindset, then it will be more expensive.
Yes, 100%. But the mindset is actually the crucial factor.
No, true. Okay.
Like the Belgians, that most of the money in the world is in the hands of 1% of the population. Yes, 100%. Because they're creative, they look at where can they solve problems. If you can solve a problem, you will always have clients. So how do we accelerate financial success within our relationships, especially, finances? And as we said, if we make financial decisions, we always do it in relationship. Now, one thing that I can tell you from experience, from working with clients, from seeing how clients can self-sabotage, lose all their money, is the danger of dominance. And what is the danger of dominance? If I grew up in a household and I never questioned my money beliefs or my earning potential or, how do we work with money? And I think this is the way we work with money. It is really this danger of dominance. And we see it a lot. It comes from cultural beliefs. We just spoke about cultural beliefs. And that is the danger of dominance, is if we say this is right and this is wrong, and this is my perception, and I project onto the world my perception. And remember, there's millions of subconscious money beliefs that you're walking around with that you don't even know you have. Now, that is the danger of dominance. So if I just grew up in a home, and this is where my father actually managed his money, what will naturally happen is I will do exactly the same. And we've seen it. Like mother, like father, the parents, the kids exactly the same. So if mommy is walking around with a credit card, the kids will also walk around with a credit card. If mommy is saving and then buying something, the child will. Remember, they pick it up subconsciously. All the talk about money in the home, they pick up subconsciously. So the danger of dominance is this is the way it is, and I'm not going to get additional input, and this is how I live my life. But then you're going to self-sabotage, either in your relationships or with money, whatever area of your life. And it's going to bring you to a point where you have to look at what is your subconscious beliefs. And that is the benefit of balance and input. Now, strangely enough, sometimes you will see, especially in couples, that you marry your opposite. The benefits of balance and input. What do I talk if I talk about balance and input? Now, subconsciously, if you haven't realized it, is that we subconsciously attract people that's the opposite of us, because we see things in them that we don't see in ourselves. And subconsciously, as part of the evolving process and growth process in us as humans, we attract each other to heal and help each other, to bring balance in life. Now, that balance is very important. So sometimes you will fight with your spouse or with another partner that this is right and this is wrong. But actually, both of you are right and both of you are wrong. It's just perceptions. So we need to create balance, and that's why we need to agree on certain things, and that's why communication becomes critical then. But what is more important, and I always say, especially in couples, but you're also working with a lot of couples, is you cannot solve any problem with your own perceptions, your own beliefs, and your own viewpoints and maps of the world. You cannot solve a problem if you don't have perception or input. And that's why mentoring and coaching is going to become critical in, surviving through COVID, evolving as individuals, is to get input from other people of where am I making a mistake, where am I missing something, help me. And the resources is available. I mean, there's a lot of mentors and coaches available. It's about, do you see yourself as worthy enough that you can get other input? Because otherwise you will always just stay in your own limited viewpoints and your own limited map and viewpoints of the world. We need to get balance and input. And if I say balance and input, maybe it's from other people. Just be careful. Don't take all the advice that you're getting around the bride, because that's your friends and your family, and sometimes they try and impress. Rather get somebody specialized in relationships, in money, and that is important, is to understand different perceptions of different people, different viewpoints. Otherwise, you're going to stay stuck in your relationship problems. You're going to stay stuck in your money problems, because you cannot move the needle from where you are right now. So accelerate financial success. It's important that you've got goals for your relationship and also money goals, obviously, and that you get input on that to help you and accelerate your own success.
Yeah, I just want to ask, like, if you have these, these mindsets, obviously that probably comes from your childhood, like what can you do to accelerate your financial, to get rid of these mindsets to accelerate your financial success? So let me take an example. Obviously, if you as a child weren't taught how to budget, and save, obviously that's going to go into your adulthood. But then how can you then, get rid of these habits and then learn better ways of budgeting and saving and, get rid of these mindsets that were ingrained in you as a child?
It's so important that I always say to people, when you earn your first salary, it doesn't matter. That's normally when you become economically active. Even if you get, money as a child as well, it's very important. But you normally follow in the footsteps of your parents. And it's important that I normally say when you start earning your first salary, you have to set intentions for yourself. You have to create a budget for yourself. I normally say to people, don't even go to a car dealer or a home, estate agent if you haven't done a budget, because of what you can do and what is financial goal setting is critical. Because otherwise people is going to try and get you into debt because they're making money. And I'm very sorry, but it's true. We know they come with subconscious, listen, here's my salary slip. That's all they ask you is, here's my salary slip. This is what you will qualify for. But it's up to you to make the decision to say, no. This is what I want for myself. And the best way to do that is really Bianca, to actually equip yourself with financial wellness and, educate yourself. I mean, financial knowledge is so powerful. So just education about what to do, not to repeat that same patterns and to break the generational curses.
Absolutely. Thank you, Alta. Yes, it's creating awareness. And I think financial coaching will be needed. Mindset. Also earlier in the chat, Anna Kok said something very nice there to mention that, if in the previous subject when we talked about the grants, it's just to say that, she's doing coaching in the townships and it's all about mindset. So the moment you can have the right mindset of things, then people will actually use the money correctly. And that's quite, thank you, Anna, for that comment. I think that was quite a useful comment in the chat. Whatever we say, in the end, I always say life is doing. We can think nice stuff out, we can change our mindset, but in the end, we all have only 24 hours in a day. And of that, we sleep 8 hours. We have limited other hours for food and drinks and social, etc. And then we work between 8 hours and some people more. So we need to use our time. It's all about time management. We need to use our time optimal. But again, it's so easy to say it. But as I said earlier, what I've learned in my life is, if you need to do something better, don't just think it out by yourself. Make use of support of other people. And what tools are there? And that's the whole thing. If there's tools that are available, get the tools and apply it and change the things you need to change. If you look at this model, and it's quite a useful one, and I don't want to lose you now, it's called the energy impact matrix. So if you look at this, and you look there, the word high impact. On the horizontal line, it's low impact. And on the left-hand side, there's battery charge and battery draining. So what's important now for you, if it comes to what Alta coined as not life by default, but life by design, this is an important piece of designing your life. And just think for yourself the moment, what is there currently that you're doing in your life? You know, maybe from a life balance point of view, or you can look at it from a relationship point of view, or from a money point of view. You can apply this model to roles, to the roles of your finance, to the roles of being a parent, to your work-life balance. So just for a moment, we don't have time for a lot of sharing, unfortunately, but just for yourself, take a few seconds and just think, what activities are you doing that put you in this quadrant of high impact and battery charging? So what is there that you do or act on that it gives you that energy and it has high impact? High impact can be, you know, more money, or it can be that it has an effect on a person, or it's bettering the relationship. High impact, that's what we mean by high impact. So what is there in your life? Just write it down on a piece of paper for yourself. What are you doing, saying, acting on that is energy for you and it has high impact? Just think about that. In theory, at least, or from the science perspective, from positive intelligence, you know, in an ideal world, 80% of your energy and thinking, things you do, should be in that quadrant. But we know it's easy to say that. But if it's possible, one should get things into that quadrant. Also now think for a moment, what are you currently doing in the role that you've chosen? What is there that you're doing that has zero impact, but it charges your batteries? What is there? Just think of it and write it down.
It's also, some of it's also probably good for you because you relax and you're happy.
It's too much off. So if I say to myself, I need a bit of a good TikTok boost and it's an hour, perfectly, then it moves to the right column. Then it moves to high impact energy because now I've learned more stuff. There's good stuff what I get from TikTok. Or the braai example, if you have the appropriate braai, it's in the right apps, because high impact energy, you like the braai, but you're making good connections with people, etc. Then it's there. When things are too much of, you see, it's again back to neuroscience. Everything that's too much of, you know, our stress, too much of stress, or too much of thinking, or too much of procrastinating, everything has too much of. That's the thing. Now also think of something in the left bottom column, but there's things you do that has zero impact, but oh man, it also drains your batteries. Dealing with certain difficult people, they waste your time, you know. You see, the whole essence of this exercise is optimal time allocation. It's optimal use of your time, and you only have 24 hours. And there are strategies to deal with this. And there's basically three broad strategies. The one strategy is what they say is you have to move from this saboteur thinking mode in your brain to the more sage thinking mode in your brain. You must be aware of how you are as a personality. You must be aware of what is your saboteurs. For some it's like being a avoider. For some it's too strict, you know, you want to do things perfect. For others you have to control everything. So you first need to be aware of who you are. And for example, if you can identify that maybe in your case, you are a super controller, for example. So again, it's okay to control, but I'm talking about too much of control. That wastes a lot of time. If you are a person that is very strict and everything must be perfect, you are wasting time and energy because the world is not that everything can be perfect. So it's all about that 80-20 principle. So what are those things, what are those 10 things you need to do so perfectly, but only the first 3 is really important to have that very, very perfectly. And the rest, you need to do something about it. So the first start was changing this model and get it right for you for optimal time and use modification. is to understand your things that saboteur you, and move to this part of your brain where you can think now differently, with more empathy for you and the other person and for the world. And being inquisitive, what are you missing? Is there another way of doing? What is the big picture? What is really matters? Not all these nitty-gritty things. If you get in that mode of thinking, then you've got the ability to look clearly at a better time allocation. So that's where you start. That's the first strategy, is know yourself, be aware. The second strategy is basically then to rebalance. Now it comes from that. So now you can easier rebalance and just make it more better. To rebalance it, to see where the percentages are and just change the percentages. And the third strategy is delegating or trading off. Delegating is you look at, especially in the column of the high impact battery draining, what are there that you can delegate or not do or not do anymore. And I want to show this with a specific example to make it for easy understanding. Took a job. This person is a sales manager. And interesting, if you can see that he's spending 15% of his time in meetings, 30% doing client queries, 10% sales and sales quotes, 15% project meetings, and general admin 30%. But if you now talk to this person, they say, "What? Okay, if I plot it on this graph, this person is saying to you that, you know, it's battery charging for me to do the sales. I like that. It's okay. Yeah, it's all right. It's battery charging, and yeah, it's okay for me to have these production meetings I have. But you know, hey man, this client queries it's draining my batteries, but it has impact. And then also, you know, the general admin, I don't see even the impact, and it's draining my batteries, and you know, and this project meetings is not up to scratch." So if you look at now your own model, look at where do you spend your time. If you can actually then make a list of where do you spend your time and plot it on that graph that you've done. But you can see now, and that is my point, what you can see is this person is going to have a big burnout very soon. Very soon this person is going to, and this person, I can't see this person being happy. I don't think he likes his job. If you only spend like that small percentage of something that gives you energy and high impact. So what we can do for this person is we can maybe say to this person, maybe go through the sequence I've explained in terms of, you know, being aware, reallocate, going into the sage mode of looking differently, what I've just explained. And you can maybe in this example, you know, that's C, that sales, that 10%, maybe because the role of the person is sales, isn't it? So maybe if you can increase that 10%, at least to 30% at least. But you know, if you say yes to something, you say no to something else. And if you say no to something, you say yes to something else, because there's only so many hours in a day. So something must give now. So in this example, the person decides that I want to be more resourceful, and I'm going to increase that percentage. So now you have to decrease it somewhere else. Maybe in this person's example, you say, I want to decrease the admin because it's killing me. So maybe this person can get it right to do some delegation, and maybe get a more feeling more forceful by doing maybe meditation and living a more balanced life. If there's things you can do to feel better about things, more believe in yourself. And if this person get it right, then this person's graph can look like that. There's all the same elements, but now the C is big, you know, at least 30% is now sales because he loves the sales. He's okay to do the client queries now because he actually loves client queries. He's changed his mind in certain things as well. And the E is still general admin, but it's reduced to 10%, or it is anyway 10%, but that part he can't get rid of. But it's a smaller part. So now this person, suddenly the life changes. This person's feel more energy, battery charging, and high impact. Because you can look at relationships. You can, for example, if I go back to the screen, let's take relationships. You can think in terms of your current relationships. What are you doing in your relationships that is giving you energy and it has high impact, that makes you more connected with your partner? You can think of things that has zero impact, charge your batteries. Maybe you're sitting in front of the TV while your poor spouse is working very hard and you're doing channel hopping, you know, zero impact, not battery charging, bugging up the relationship. Or maybe there's things you just need to do. So you need to help with the kids, maybe change the, you know, the dukkha, whatever, and it's not really battery, it's battery draining, but it's high impact on your kid because your kid is fed well and taken care of. Okay? So what I'm saying, you can use this example in anything. Look at finances. Alta, your area that's so strongly as a financial coach. You can look at how do you deal with your finances? What decisions are you making that is actually charging your batteries and is having high impact? You know, it's giving you the return that you want. Or what are you playing around with? You know, listening to people and gossip where you need to put your money. It's got zero impact and it's actually battery charging. You listen to all these nice stories of certain types of investments, but it's just have zero impact. You're wasting your time. And if you don't know a lot, make use of a financial coach to put you again into that bracket. Or the things you do with your finances that at high impact, but it drains your battery. Some of us, we don't like the budget. So, but then if you don't like the budget, then either find a way to like the budgeting or somebody else must do the budgeting for you. So the whole thing, and that is my point, that you do have choices. There's also things in finance that has zero impact in battery draining. Just leave them out. So you can take this as a role. So you can look at any type of role. You can look at your social life. You can look at everything. Or work-life balance is a good topic, not just your work-life balance. How do you balance your work life so that you have more battery charging, high impact, and to move then towards that and find a way and a strategy to get there? Is also don't make the following mistake of always being in an urgency mode. That is a big mistake we tend to fall in. We procrastinate, we don't plan properly, we don't think first of the important stuff. We get into a mode of everything is urgent and important. It's just another way of thinking about what you do, the content of it. So for example, that a lot of our time is spent in this quadrant of urgent and important. You know, is that crisis management, that deadline problems, and especially, you know, I come from an IT environment as well, also from a financial insurance companies. You know, it's always expressing things, you know, it's deadlines, deadline driven. I know also in Michelle's world of marketing, it's deadline driven. But, you know, if too much time is spent in this quadrant, you're going to burn out, you're going to lose on your relationships, it's going downhill as well. So even if you do the other exercise so nice and properly, you have to take this all into account. You need to spend more time in this quadrant of things that's not urgent, but important. And that is then, you know, the correct occasional braai, right? It is planning. It is, you know, like your work-life balance, recreation stuff. So some of these things, or certain job stuff. So you can think of, let's take an example of you plan properly to do the minutes in time for a meeting. It's your choice to wait till the meeting starts, you know, hour before or the previous day, now quickly you're pressed, you have to do this crisis, you have to get the minutes out. Or if you can rather get the minutes out the day when the meeting happened, and the next meeting is a month from now, but before, you know, you do the minutes now, so that when the time comes for the meeting in a month's time, you already have the minutes done. You know, it's just an example. Or think of your tax affairs. I mean, you know that 28th of February is looming and you need to do your tax affairs by July or whatever. You can wait till the receiver is banging on you, on your head, or you can do it in time, or you can delegate it to your auditor or whatever. So the point I'm making is that also, in addition to the previous tool, is think again of trying to arrange and plan your life more around what is not urgent and important. Otherwise, it will become urgent and important, and that's not the space you want to do. Things that's not urgent and not important, you know, as time wasters, and things that's not important, but it's urgent, you must see, you know, what can you delegate if you can it always do that. But this is quite a useful tool that I really also want to throw in addition to this tool. And if you get this right, and it's easy to say it again, but if you really put your mind on it, it's mindset again, guys. If you really put your mind upon this, it will help you tremendously. I want to show you, this, I call it a resilience tool. And you can look at each block and actually have a whole day discussion on each block. We will address this in our future seminars. We will address this in our coaching. We will, at the end, just refer to our coaching programs that we have. But this is so important, and because this is taking everything together, but it's also a tool. I grew up, if I look at the misery time of my life when I was very young, I really had a difficult childhood. And I thought at that stage, I don't have choices. It's only later in life that I realized, but gee, I have choices. I have more choice than I think I ever have. I do have choices. I don't have to blame the way I was or I was brought up. So the point to realize then is that the way you think. So if you're aware and you realize again that negative self-talk is coming back, you have a choice to transform your thoughts. You have a choice to manage your emotions. You don't have to slam the door. And of course, if you transform your thoughts and you think with the right mindset, you are managing your emotions. And if your emotions are not in control, you have to calm down, because remember, a lot of your emotions is coming from the limbic system. And we know now that we need to develop the other neural circuits in our brain, the more the forefront. We need to develop the side side so that we are calm thinkers and have more empathy for ourselves, self-love, and these things I've mentioned before. And thirdly, but the purpose thing, because if you think of my earlier slides on the research, a lot of people are going into this mode, they just don't see the purpose of things anymore. And if you get into that slot, you're going to become depressed. And again, your brain is now sending not the right electrochemical signals to your body. And sometimes you're now more stressed as well. And it needs more cortisol in your body. And eventually you'll get cancer, for example. And what I want to say to you is that you have a choice to look at these blocks. Where are your blocks that you need to focus on? And remember, we all have our various blocks. Now, not everybody is struggling with a specific block. Maybe you struggle with all of the blocks. Maybe there's a specific one. And this is also a very biggie. Is in addition to this, you have to be present and open. There's a lie. You can Google it as well. We have heard the word of multitasking. Actually, according to the latest neuroscience, there isn't such a thing as multitasking. You just think it. You can actually just do one thing at a time. You think you do 3-4 things, but focused task, you do get done in a day or an hour. But the whole thing is that the whole saying is wherever you are, be there. Otherwise, you're either in the past or in the future. The past brings out certain maybe negative feelings again. If you think on the future too much, then you think of worry, what can happen. And then if in terms of your personality profile, this can show havoc into your brain as well. So be present and open. And the next one is if you set intention for success. Now we can talk a lot about intention, and I know Alta referred to that earlier also with the intention of your mindset. But if you have the intention to wake up the next morning, I know, for example, one of our colleagues here, Paul Hassett, got 2 big dogs. I don't think you have to ask Paul what is his intention. He knows tomorrow morning he's going to feed his dogs. And the same with me. I've got Sophie in my life. I have a really automatic intention. But I'm talking more than that. It's like, if you want to do something and you put your intention behind it, you will do it. It is as if your brain is like a heat-seeking missile. If you've got that decision, that you want to do something, you will do it. And the universe will conspire for you to get there. I mean, if you buy a pink Volkswagen, it will be interesting how many other pink Volkswagens you see on the road, but you haven't seen them before. Because the moment you put your mind to something, it's as if now you're more aware of things that can happen to get you to that goal. So that, and then the management of stress goes hand in hand. I mean, again, you have a choice. You have a choice to manage your stress. If you feel stressful, what are you going to do about it? And sometimes it's not difficult, it's not easy. And I know it's easy to say, but if you really have a difficulty in any of these blocks, there's coaches, there's self-help tools. And lastly, you have the whole thing of goal setting. And I mean, we did this workshop, myself and Alta, we spent a whole day just on appropriate goal setting. So this is heavy topics, but what I want to show you this blocks in a row is to realize that you have a choice. You have a choice in these things. And if you look at this model, you have a choice for all of these. And this is a resilience model. You can actually print it out and put it in front of you and look at your day and see where in these blocks you're not okay with and address it. And then again, it's back to the 80-20 principle. If I can summarize, you know, life is doing. It's not just thinking and chatting, it's doing. And this is for me such a great summary that I always show in my workshops, you know, think of your body, you know, and its choices. Enough sleep, correct diet, exercise, eliminate unnecessary stress with a healthier lifestyle. Now again, it's easy, we know it all, we know this. But if you don't do it, what are you going to do to make sure it happens? Maybe in your case, you need to then find a way or find a coach to help you. In my own case, I'm now nearly 66 and I can feel a lot of body pains I haven't before. And I can't get myself so far to every day do my biokinesis exercises. So what I now do, and I know it's costing me money, but every Monday, it's like it's in my life now, every Monday I walk my 1 kilometer to a biokineticist, and she's helping me to do all the stretches, then I walk back the kilometer. Now it's entrenched in my daily life, in my weekly life at least. And I also do 2 of the exercises now as a habit. Your mind, you know, be calm, meditate, read good books, watching uplifting movies, but enough of it, not too many of it. Your relationships, more time with family and friends, less rush at home, getting in touch with each other again. New thinking, new habits about everything. What's important to you? What are you going to do differently? What healthy changes are you going to implement? Being grateful. The list is long the moment you just start thinking about it. You know, so I know you know this, but I need to just to remind you. And I think the workshop is a reminder of things we actually know. But the question you need to ask, if you're not doing certain things for these elements of the body and the mind and the relationship, you know, you must think, why not? And what, hopefully after this workshop, you're more sensitized to say that you are going to start doing that, exactly that. In my own life, you know, there's the 4 A's, you know, it's like, you know, that being aware, I have to accept, and then you take it the rest, and appreciation and action. You know, that's the 4 A's. If you can just follow that, it will help you.
Yeah, it comes me to a point where I want to ask you, before we, you know, set intentions for 2022, because it's really all of us, you know, we can set intentions in the beginning of the year, you know, 2 months later, we're back on the hamster wheel and life is the same. And my question to you today is, what is the one thing that you maybe realized, and you can put it in the chat box, is if you need new knowledge and skills, what is maybe that one piece of knowledge or one skill that you realize today that you need to work on in the next year, one month, 6 months? Is there anything in terms of knowledge and skills that you realize that you need to upskill yourself on? Time management, generating more business, learning to say no. Well done, Joanne. I think that's a great one. You've identified the knowledge and skills, assertive communication. Brilliant. And I think also, Geneva, it's understanding yourself and your own needs, because then you can, you know, have that assertive communication. Putting myself first. Great, Guinea. Looking after yourself. Stop procrastination. Brilliant. And I think Willie's model will help you very nice with that, the procrastination. Avoid crisis management and tools to change thinking. Not motivated by fear, but by love. I love it. Love it. Okay, so the next question, I mean, if you identified something today of maybe new knowledge, new skills, mindset, whatever you need to improve, do you have a plan to follow? Because that's the next thing that you need to do is you need to intentionally put a plan together. It's like Willie said when he mentioned TikTok, that you can waste a lot of time. I think we waste a lot of time. And the reason why we waste a lot of time is because we don't work with intention. And if you can create just small habits on a daily basis, 3 new habits that you implement on a daily basis or weekly basis, that you will get you there. You eventually will get there where you want to be. So do you have a plan to follow so that you map out your mission and your vision and your why? And Willie also spoke about purpose and meaning for your life, for your business, for your relationships that you need to follow. Then what help do you need? I think sometimes, you know, we learn and we know that we need help, but we're scared to ask for help. And I think, you know, if I look back, you know, some people is very scared to ask for help, and other people it's just, it comes so easy, you know, they know they need to have additional resources. They know there's help available. They can get themselves out of that stuck mode. So what help do you need? Then what is the tools and resources that will help you? And I mean, I know Willie's got a lot of tools and resources, and maybe you've got already a lot of tools and resources, but there's so much more tools and resources that can really help you to create self-awareness of your own patterns of thought, your own patterns of behaviors, of where you're sabotaging your own life. Who can help you? And really, I'm honest here today. My passion is to help and empower people. But maybe, you know, you can't afford a coach right now. Go to someone, go and ask for help. Just don't stay stuck. And that's my question or answer that I want to give you today is go and look for people, look for mentors, look for coaches, because there's people that love helping other people. You just need to be brave enough to say, listen, I need help, and have an accountability partner that can help you. Now, the next thing that all of us is battling with, and I think this is the biggest stumble block to everybody's success, is what must you believe of yourself in order to get to where you want to be? What must your beliefs be? Because remember, our beliefs create our thoughts create our emotions create our behaviors. And it's really, if I believe that I'm good enough, or I believe that I'm worthy of love, then I won't attract, you know, people. So I need to believe I can do anything. Brilliant, Michelle. Because otherwise it's just limiting beliefs. Because remember, we were, maybe somebody mentioned to you as a child that you can't do public speaking. And now all of a sudden you're scared of public speaking. But if you work with your subconscious fears and your subconscious beliefs, and you reprogram those beliefs about yourself and what's possible, that's when you become almost, I want to say limitless, but that is where you silence your saboteurs that Willie is calling to say, I need to be perfect, I need to do this. But you need to change those beliefs. And if you can't do it yourself, you need to have a coach or someone else that help you to say, listen, believe in yourself. And I think the world can change if we can help people believe more, that more is available for them. And they don't need to fear and live in that fear patterns all the time. And then what is the habits and beliefs that you must acquire to get to your intentions for this year, because we realize that we need to change habits, we need to change beliefs if we want to change our intentions and the trajectory of our lives. We need to change that intentions. And the easiest way that I can actually explain this to you is if you do daily set that intention, and it's intentional choices that you make to set new habits and behaviors. Later on, it's like Willie said, you know, sometimes you need an accountability coach because listen, I can't exercise on my own. I need somebody else to help me to say, listen, exercise. Maybe you need that accountability partner, accountability person that can help you to change your beliefs and change your habits. And then my question to you today is, what must you start doing from today onwards? And what must you stop doing? Because that stop doing can be sometimes difficult because we all in our comfort zones and we don't grow when it's comfortable. We sometimes only grow when it's hard and we can challenge ourselves. And if we can challenge ourselves to start believing anything is possible, and also starting to believe that we can do difficult stuff. And I know I coached a lady the other day and she said to me, Alta, the biggest breakthrough that you explained to me was and I actually wrote an article on it and I'll share it with you, but it's how to hack your brain and tell your brain it's easy. Because the brain is telling us, you know, things is difficult and it's hard. But if you can hack your brain all the time and you can say it's easy. The person actually went through a divorce and she said she's stuck. You know, she can't see how she must move forward in the next 3 months and 2 months. And I said, you know, the easiest way to move yourself forward is to say it's easy. I'm making it more difficult for myself by telling myself it's hard. And you can actually hack your brain by just telling yourself it's easy. And the more you do it, the more you can change your life. So I'm going to ask again, maybe in the chat box, just tell me, you came in with an intention for today. And if you look at your intentions for the new year, and I see Joanne is saying, it is so strange how some of those limiting beliefs that others program into you can be changed into motivators. True. I had a maths teacher in high school that told me I will never be able to achieve anything in life and I am not smart enough to get it done. That was my greatest motivator to prove her wrong. So I got my distinction and had the greatest satisfaction. When I walked into the same school, saw her face, wow, and finalizing your qualification. Joanne, brilliant. Thanks for that, sharing that. Joanne, I know you're an accountant, and sometimes people battle with financial planning because they're scared of numbers, because somebody told them that they're not good with maths. And I see that. People don't want to do budgeting because they say, I'm not good with maths. But it's all a subconscious belief that somebody programmed to say, I'm not good with maths or I'm not good with money. Is because you got it from somebody else. Or maybe I'm not good with earning money, or I'm not good with a budget, or with saving, whatever your subconscious beliefs are. So if you need to just say one intention for 2022 that you want to put here today as a commitment, not to me, not to anybody else in the group, but yourself, is what are you prepared to commit to today? Put for me in the chat box a new commitment that you want to make for yourself. Get more balance, saving, putting my happiness and my well-being first, get a health plan in place. So new commitments, more fun. Hannah, I love it. Managing my personal finances like a boss. Great. Putting myself first and have more fun. I think sometimes just from the chat box, my intention for 2020 is to stick to my goals and doubling my business year on year as I did since inception. Great. Some of us was brought up with a lot of responsibility as part of our personality types. Is that we are responsible individuals. And if you're a responsible individual, you take on responsibilities for yourself, but you also take on responsibilities of other people that you're actually not supposed to take on their responsibilities, but you do. And you feel guilty sometimes, but it's actually not your responsibilities. And by having a lot of responsibilities, it actually creates a lot of anxiety in yourself. And the only way, as Willie mentioned it, is to have fun, because we need to, if you know how to hack the chemicals of your brain, and you know how to create serotonin and dopamine for your brain, the happy hormones, you can put yourself in a different state within minutes. And that's why I said, just by hacking your brain, telling your brain it's easy, you can also create feel-good hormones. To internalize matters by creating time to do self-reflection, need to be fixed and be able to identify the tools that you will need. Great.
Yes, thanks for that. And just to elaborate in terms of what I put in the chat box, ideally I'm a problem solver. So when the matter comes up, I want to solve it. But what I've realized this year is I still need to internalize as well. So as the matter comes in, sometimes it doesn't need to be resolved immediately. So what I mean by internalizing is to really reflect on it and to do a self-reflection to say, what has actually happened to me? Or where am I now? And then what do I need to do? So that self-reflection, I think that is where I'm lacking in terms of, I don't make time, or I would say there's no time to do that self-reflection. So that is something that I know that I need to work on, because I will be able to, once I have identified the root cause of why I'm stuck, then I'll be able to solve it.
I do a lot of journaling. Journaling helps really to create that self-reflection.
Very important. The program basically is 7 weeks of intention, but your mindset must be right. You must really want to do it. It is the knowledge of the neuroscience, practical tools, meditation exercises, and what is so beautiful for me, if people some of you have done the course, but if I start with the course and I have 5 or 6 people in front of me with a Zoom, for example, on the group coaching portion, and I look at video 1 and people give feedback on what they've learned in video 1, and I look at the faces in front of me. When I get to in the 4th week, you can actually see a personality change in a certain sense. You can just see how people are more lighter and more dedicated and better. And when you get to the 7th video, or at the end of the workshops, the 7-week period, then it's really changed people, and it's very, very fantastic to see for myself as a coach. My normal, from a package perspective, my normal package, it's 9,500 Rand. But for this group, anybody that was here today, I will give the package for 6,500 Rand. And you can also have a pay-off plan with me. It's okay for me. So that is my offer to this group, Alta. So basically, I'm running the next workshop very soon. So you can just let me know. I will maybe in a week or 2 will start another one, and I sort of group people in 5 together. But it's also in addition to that, direct coaching sessions with me as well. Either direct or Zoom. It's not just the group stuff. It's 7 groups, but also direct coaching with me as well. Plus a lot of content, and also an app on your phone to help you to listen to certain videos. It's quite a lot of things, but you need to really want to do it. Yeah.
I want to say to everybody, we can learn a lot of stuff, and I'm a learner. I love to learn, and I love to get new insights. But it's the practical application, and it's really rewiring your subconscious mind. And I can't say, Willie, I mean, we spoke a lot about it, is how limited we lived you know, working in corporate or anywhere else. And once you understand the subconscious mind, it's so powerful. But understanding that is one thing, but applying that and really rewiring your subconscious mind to live with different belief systems of what is possible and how to tame those saboteurs and not have your daily actions on the fear pedal, but on the love pedal. I mean, it's really intentional work that you need to do. And I love the program. I just recently started with Willie on that program, which is brilliant. So yeah, I've also decided with the same as Willie, he's offering it at a reduced price, and we actually said, okay, I'll do mine the same. I do a lot of other coaching programs. I know there's people here that's in my Enneagram group coaching, some of the ladies here. So I do Enneagram group coaching programs, but I also am doing a Rewiring Your Money Story group coaching program, also for 8 weeks. We're also going to do it. I'm also going to offer it at a reduced price. So what we will do is we'll send out an email, you know, Monday morning, you'll have an email in your inbox. If we do not have your email and you are interested, just drop it in the chat. I know there's people that joined late, so you can just drop it in the chat. And then, Willie, we're only going to have it at the reduced price until Wednesday, I think we said.
Wednesday.
Yeah, we will put it in the emails.
Wednesday.
And if you decide not to go with us, it's also fine. My suggestion to you today is please get additional help. There's resources available. You know, you can really change your life. I've invested a lot of money in the last 2 years in my own personal development. And the reason why I did that is because I know I'm going to make my return on my investment is much more for myself. And I know I'm worthy to invest in myself. And if you feel worthy to invest in yourself, you're at a very great place in your own life, because it means you dedicate yourself and your own personal development as the most important thing. And you know, if more people do that, we can really change humanity. That's my personal opinion, and I'm so passionate about it to change lives.
You know, if you feel that in your life there's a very specific area that you need very intensive therapy, or it's maybe beyond our scopes, remember, then you don't have to deal with Willie or Alta, or deal with somebody that you feel comfortable with. There's a lot of coaches with specific areas. I know a lot of them. I deal a lot with coaches. I also do training for coaches. So basically, come back to me and say that you need a coach for this specific topic, and then I will know people I'm registered, like Alta, we are part of the Comensa group in South Africa. At this point, I want to thank a big thank you for Michelle Lategin, our marketing agent. Michelle, a lot of things that happened was because of your energy and input. You put everything together for us. And the logos, the marketing, the slides, and you were very critical for all the right reasons, and we had to listen to you when you say no, that, and yes, that. So really, I want to thank you for the role that you played for the seminar. Really big thank you for that. I also want to thank Alta sals mekaar nou dankie sê. Ek sê thanks for Alta, my colleague. Yes. I also say to Alta, you know, the depth of the knowledge of the Enneagram specifically, and also the path that she walked in her life, for me always is energetic, and I feel always safe in Alta's environment when we do coaching together, and we did it now for 4 years, Alta. So thank you, I would say, my partner in the coaching world, you know, for me, may feel that I can feel safe as well. Thanks a lot.
And I want to say to Willie and Michelle, thank you very much for this opportunity. I think myself and Willie actually discussed this, to have this once a month.
Yeah, thank you, Willie, Alta, for your input as well. It's been fantastic. What I just want to remind the viewers of is your actual services that you do provide outside. So I know Willie provides coaching to businesses, CEOs, top management, lower management, in the workplace as well. He coaches companies like the Reserve Bank and Liberty and so forth, and also concentrates on coaching relationships and mediation. Alta, again, is in financial coaching. That's where you specialize. Alta, is there anything else you do prefer except for financial and anagram coaching?
Yeah, I do a lot of behavioral coaching, subconscious, also to corporates. Financial advisors, I do that as well. Yeah.
And yeah, thank you for everyone for your time and patience. I do need to ask your permission. We do hope to post this video on Willie's YouTube channel. So if there's any objections to that, please contact me directly. I would appreciate that. But in the meantime, thank you so much for your participation. We need your support as well, and as you need ours. So let's be there for us, for each other, and yeah, make 2022 fantastic. I'm pretty sure. Thank you, Willie, Alta. Enjoy.
Make 2022 your best year yet.